Hey everyone, I'm Tassenix and welcome to another mod guide. This time we're going to be covering Imperial probe droid HK-47, IG-88 and IG-86 as they apply under Dr. Aphra. So some of these characters can be used elsewhere. IG-8's a bounty hunter, HK-47 can technically go with Sith Empire, but for the purpose of this video, we'll be talking about how they can be used in the 5 versus 5 composition under Dr. Aphra. I went into detail in her video about when and why you might actually want to be using the mix of these droid characters, so I will have a link to that here in the description of this video. I'll spare you the time on this one. You can go right on over and understand the rationale for that. But yeah, let's go ahead and briefly recap on how Dr. Aphra's leadership applies to the modding of these characters. So the leadership is Suspended Doctorate. Whenever a dark side ally inflicts a debuff, they gain 5% offense for 1 turn, and Aphra gains 5 siphon until the end of the encounter. If dark side ally is a droid, Darth Vader, or Chrysanthemum, they instead gain 10% offense for 1 turn, and Aphra instead gains 10 siphon until the end of the encounter. The Omicron on the leadership that only works in 5 vs 5 Grand Arena also says that dark side droid and scoundrel allies have plus 50% critical avoidance and plus 30 speed. Whenever a dark side droid or scoundrel ally inflicts a debuff on an enemy, they gain 10% turn meter, limit once per turn. Okay, let's jump into our first character, Imperial probe droid. And I do have a TLDR on Imperial probe droid. So set types should be potency or potency/health. Arrow, circle, triangle should all be health ideally. And the cross, of course, is potency. So the turn order is going to be 4th, and the stat priority should be potency over health over speed. The one caveat on the speed being we must be faster than IG-88. As we'll see in just a second, that's actually pretty easy to do. So let's talk about his unique Imperial Logistics. Imperial probe droid has plus 50% max health. That's why we go with these health primaries. We just want to make sure this guy sticks around to do his job, and that's about it, right? At the end of each droid ally turn, at the end of each Empire ally turn, and at the end of each Rebel enemy turn, Imperial probe droid gains 3% turn meter. So we do want to make sure that he's faster than IG-88, but that's about it. However, because of this unique and the fact that we know that we're planning on IPD going forth, that means we know BT1 and 000 are both ahead of him, which means IPD is going to gain 6% turn meter, so you could have your IPD actually modded just that little much slower, right? Maybe 5% slower than IG-88 and have confidence that you'd actually still be out ahead. I just mod my IPD to straight up just be faster than IG-88, but if you were really constrained on mods, it's interesting that you could do that, yeah? Alright, while Imperial probe droid is active, target locked enemies have minus 25% evasion and can't gain buffs. So IPD himself can inflict target lock, but so does IG-88, and that's the other combo piece with this guy, right? Alright, I won't cover that TB Omicron, but let's go ahead and talk about IPD's basic Precision Blasters. Deal physical damage to target enemy with an 80% chance to expose them for 2 turns. Pretty straight up. Alright, his first special. This is the turn we really care about. Detect. Dispel all buffs on all enemies with a 75% chance to inflict target lock for 2 turns. Then, remove 5% turn meter from target locked enemies. This attack can't be evaded. We do want to have high potency for the best chance of, both the target lock application for the reasons of the unique, and then removing turn meter from the enemies is never bad. So, high potency, right? Alright, I think that covers that. Let's go ahead and talk about the second special, Self-Destruct. Imperial probe droid instantly defeats itself and can't be revived. Deal massive damage to target enemy. Deal bonus damage to other enemies equal to 30% of their max health. Expose all target locked enemies for 2 turns, and this attack can't be evaded. While Imperial probe droid has full health or has no active allies, the cooldown of this ability is set to max and can't be reduced. So he has to have less than 100% max health to be able to use this ability, and he can't be the only character alive. So in Grand Arena, I'm usually not trying to use this because it costs you banners. If you are, for some reason, endangered in the fight and you've got to break glass in case of emergency, I wouldn't fault you for that. But otherwise, I'm really not trying to use this skill. All right, as far as the mods themselves, let's take a look real quick. This is just one way of doing it. There's most players are going to run full potency because we only really care about that one turn that we get with IPD. So much depends that whatever value we get out of the outside of the core trio, it's really about just the one turn. The fight's usually going to end pretty quickly otherwise, so we're not really trying to play the long game with any of these characters. That said, I'm actually pretty constrained on potency mods, so it was easier for me to cobble a set together that was a mix of potency and health, but if I had it, I would just go all potency mods with some really good health secondaries, something like that. So you can see I just stacked up with these primaries, like I said, health, 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 with a potency cross. 251 is my IPD speed. It just so happens that you'll see my IG-88 is 250, so I'm A-okay. Now, I usually am saying that for any character where you care about having potency, then you want to have at least 100%. This guy, I would say go as high as you can, really. 110 plus is a really better floor for this character. Again, we're only really getting one turn that we care about. It's only going to matter, if it's going to matter at all, about that first turn. So get the most out of it, have as high a potency as you can get. The rest of the stats, I'd say, don't matter too much. Just lean into that health bonus and then stack your potency. Okay, next character. Let's go ahead and talk about IG-88. And wouldn't you know it, your boy's got a TLDR on not IG-88, geez. HK-47 is who's next, and we're talking about the TLDR for HK-47. Set type should be offense with, I guess, either crit chance or preferably health. Arrow should be speed. This could be a protection or an offense primary, but gosh, if you're using one fast enough to replace a speed arrow, couldn't you put it somewhere else? HK-47's a dreadfully slow character, so to make sure that he is naturally faster than your IG-88, you're probably just going to use a speed arrow. Circle should be protection. Triangle and cross should both be offense, for reasons we'll see in just a moment. His turn order is 4th, so yeah, you'd be using this guy instead of IPD. I really can't see when you'd be using them together for this particular team, so he is the 4th. Stat priority should be offense overall, and then, of course, speed insofar as he needs to be faster than IG-88, and that's about it. So, let's go ahead and talk about his kit. His leadership I won't cover. You used to use this back in the day before Sortie. It was basically, I need to throw some type of droid team together, and this little bit of stats is something. And that's true. But Sortie is a way better generic droid leader now, so I would much rather use that. Let's talk about his first unique, Self-Reconstruction. When a buff expires on an enemy, HK-47 recovers 5% health and 5% protection. When HK-47 uses an ability during his turn, it deals 25% more damage if the target has Deathmark or Fear. Spoiler, there really isn't Deathmark or Fear on our team, but this part was designed for him being run with Darth Revan. Speaking of which, his second unique, Loyalty to the Maker, says, if HK-47's leader is Darth Revan, HK-47 has the following. A ton of good stuff, none of which we get because we're running under Afra. Alright, let's talk about his basic. Request. Die, meatbag. Deal physical damage to target enemy and gain offense up for 2 turns. This attack has plus 30% critical damage against debuffed enemies. Alright, so really nice. In an ideal world, we get to use this first before any of his other damaging specials so that we could benefit from offense up, but not really realistic for what we're trying to do. Still, good basic. Alright, this is where the money is. His first special, Havoc. Deal true damage, defined as ignoring defense but can't critically hit, to all enemies, and then half that amount in additional time for each debuffed enemy. Then, inflict tenacity down on all enemies for 2 turns. This attack deals 20% more damage for each Jedi enemy and can't be countered. So yeah, it's an AoE true damage ability, so that's why we really want to lean into the offense, right? To get the most out of it, since we know it can't critically hit. And then we get an AoE tenacity down after that. AoE tenacity down is exceedingly rare, guys. And as we'll see with IG-88's kit, having that just ahead of him attempting to land an AoE ability block is pretty nice. So that's really where the money is. This next special is Assassination Protocol. Dispel all buffs on target enemy, then deal physical damage to that enemy. This attack can't be evaded and deals 100% more damage against Jedi. If the target enemy has Deathmark or Fear, this ability's cooldown is reset. This ability starts on cooldown, and its cooldown is reduced by 1 when an enemy is inflicted with Fear. So again, not really having that as part of our team, since this was all part of running him under Darth Revan. Really cool kit for that. But since this is a 9-round cooldown, almost never are you going to be seeing this in use under Afra. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about his mods. Let me back here. Go HK. Okay, so yeah, look, I happen to be in a really lucky position where I have such a glut of offense primaries for triangle and cross that it actually doesn't cost me a lot to throw a random 21 speed and 14 speed on here. So I'll grant up front, some of these mods are pretty fast. Actually, a lot of them are pretty fast. And I had to do this though to get him to be safely over the 250, right? So it is a little faster than it strictly needs to be, but he needed to be at least 251 to be ahead of my IG-88. And that's really the key mark about speed. After that, everything's about offense to make use out of that one turn when you're throwing Havoc. You really don't count on him doing much else after that. We see that we have a strong offense mark on here. He is Relic 8. I think a lot of people have him Relic 5 to Relic 7, so lower your damage by 1,500 or so, depending on where you've got him, something like that. Okay, so that's enough about him. Let's go ahead now and talk about IG-88. And wouldn't you know it, I also have a TLDR for this guy. So for IG-88, his set type should be full potency, or you can go with a 4-piece of crit damage and 2 potency. Arrow should be speed. This is another slow character, and while the turn order could be preserved with them being really slow, you still want to make sure that they actually have a chance to get out without getting lapped or otherwise easily shut down by multiple enemy turns just doing stuff to you. So don't be too slow, right? For that reason, I set a speed arrow on him, and that kind of sets the floor, right? Whatever his speed comes out to be, that sets the floor for what the 4th character in our turn order needs to be, right? This guy +1. Alright, so arrow is speed, circle is protection, triangle is ideally crit damage, and cross would of course be potency. He is the last character in our turn order, number 5, and the stat priority should be potency over offense over speed. Let's take a look at his kit. IG-88's adaptive aim algorithm. IG-88 has plus 45% critical damage and recovers 50% health when he damages a target-locked enemy. In addition, he has plus 20% offense for each debuffed enemy and plus 50% evasion against target-locked enemies. While IG-8 is active, target-locked enemies can't recover health or protection, right? So I also think from IPD it says that they can't gain buffs when they have target locked. So this is quite a synergy between those two uniques to be having your enemies debuffed with target lock. Really nice move, right? IG-88's payout. Yeah, since we're not running him under any sort of bounty hunter team, this isn't really going to be getting activated. So we don't have to worry about that. His leadership, of course, we're not worried about. We're not using this, and it's not one of the better bounty hunter leads, I have to say. Let's talk about his basic Mortal Wound. Deal physical damage to target enemy with a 60% chance to inflict healing immunity for 2 turns. Really nice. There's a variety of situations where this is super, super helpful. So Love that basic. All right, this is where the money is. Rapid fire. Deal physical damage to all enemies with a 55% chance to inflict ability block for 1 turn and a 50% chance to inflict defense down for 2 turns. If an enemy is critically hit, inflict target lock for 3 turns. Okay, so you have the 55% chance on ability block. That's not great, guys. We're not really relying on that, but it's great if it lands because it's a 55% chance per each target. It's a separate roll per each target. So hopefully we get lucky, right? And you need to have enough potency to have that land. All right, and then of course, if you do critically hit, inflict target lock for 3 turns. All right, so a lot of us are going to have this character at Relic 9 for the purposes of fleet. It's a pretty uncompetitive choice in high-end territory wars to not have your IG-88 at Relic 9. And I say that because this guy actually has a pretty decent critical chance rating, just granted to him, right? But let's take a look at that from the other view. Alright, so yeah, I went with the crit damage and potency route. Since I have a really high base critical chance, I was like, you know what? Why not go for more damage in amongst having some decent potency? So yeah, 250 speed, as I had mentioned earlier. Of course, we're going to have the speed arrow, crit damage triangle, potency cross. Protection, technically he has like a health recovery that we saw from his unique. But in terms of just maximizing his individual survivability, I just rock with the protection so that we get the most one-time life instead of focusing on what we're recovering. Yeah, potency over 100%. Ideally, this would be even higher. Again, if I weren't so constrained on potency mods, maybe this would be all potency, maybe with high offense baked into it. Knowing that we wouldn't have the benefit of the 4-piece of crit damage, I would go for higher offense on those potency mods. I would still rock the crit damage triangle just to get the biggest bang for the buck, though. So yeah, over 100% potency, as much offense as you can pack on. So yeah, that's about it there. You can go with the full potency. The crit damage potency is nice. I guess as a third, less preferred option, you could also go offense potency for similar reasons. But yeah, that's about it for this guy. All right, last and certainly least is going to be IG-86. So as I'd mentioned in the Afro video, there's pretty good reasons why you might use any of those other 2 droids with IG-88. This is the last option, and really, this is the only area where this character has an opportunity to shine. Let's go ahead and look at the TLDR on IG-86. His set types should be speed with a 2-piece of honestly whatever, because it's really mostly about how fast he can be, but let's say crit chance or ideally health. Arrow should be speed. Circle should be protection for maximum survivability. Doesn't matter so much. Triangle should be crit damage, and the cross could be offense or protection. Offense would, of course, be some more damage, but protection would be considerably more survivability. This character is remarkably fragile and can use help with that. You might even make a case that you could run protection for the triangle if you're really seeing yours die quickly. But yeah, you have some flexibility there. Ultimately, I think I would end up choosing the primaries based on whichever one's faster, because this guy just needs to churn through turns. Where you are using this character, you're using him in place of either IPD or HK-47, so he is going to be our 4th character to go. And the stat priority should be speed greater than offense. This guy needs to be just cruising. Honestly, as far as like turn order goes, it doesn't matter, because anything that he does is, anytime he's going to be able to use his special, it's going to be beneficial, and it just matters that he gets to go fastest. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at his kit. Unique Droid Squad Tactics. IG-86 gains 4.5% crit chance for each living droid ally. In addition, he has plus 20% critical damage. So you might say, it's like, wow, this guy has the opportunity to really slap, and you could put him in a crit damage set, and he would gain some pretty good value. Yeah, but like, we really want this guy to take a lot of turns, as we're going to see. So you could put this guy in a super fast crit damage set, and he would really enjoy it. But God, can't you? You've probably got way better uses for that same set than this particular character. All right, let's talk about his basic Precision Strike. Deal physical damage to target enemy with an additional 50% chance of critical hit. So between that unique and then just the granted critical hit here, yeah, this is going to be critical, all right? Assassin Droid Tactics. Deal physical damage to target enemy and call a random ally to assist. If the assisting ally is a droid, both attackers have an additional 75% critical damage. So this is what makes this guy a sleeper. You're running it with Aphra and 4 droids. So even though it's a random ally that's getting called to assist, any non-random, any non-Aphra ally is going to be gaining, this benefit. Both of them get the 75% critical damage. Again, so this guy does have the opportunity to do some pretty slapping damage. But what's really special about this ability is that the cooldown is only 2. Okay? So he's using it. Next time he's getting a turn, that ability says 1, right? 1 round remaining, okay? And then the next time he's getting a turn, he's back with it, okay? So this is where I say that we actually really want to buy his speed. To get the most value out of this, we need to be seeing this ability more. So instead of going for a really fast crit damage set to maximize his own damage, I would just as soon have you put this guy as fast as you could and have him possibly handing out this additional 75% critical damage, calling somebody like BT1 to assist. It's insane the damage that can do, so it's pretty fun. All right, let's go ahead and look how I have this guy statted out. Honestly, it's nothing too crazy, okay? Speed set, and I actually have a 2-piece of defense because I can't really spare the crit chance or the health mods. This guy, I used to have a lot more love on. You see, he's actually even just a crit chance triangle. This would ideally be crit damage. So my guy isn't even set up according to my own spec these days. And the reason for that, of course, is I'm not really using this guy. It's usually Darth Vader or IPD or HK, but almost never am I using IG-86 these days, despite how I'm talking him up, how this can matter. So that said, if I did, he needs to at least be, I guess I'd have him easily faster than IG-88. That's not because it matters about him using his abilities ahead of IG-88, unlike with IPD and HK-47. It's just, this guy's gonna definitely be fast. So as long as he's going and cycling that special, that's how we derive value from this guy. So certainly, I guess at least faster than IG-88, since IG-88's the slowest character allowable on your team. But really, this guy could be closer on up to, see, this is 252 with a 113 speed set. So you figure, if this is like a 160-ish set, this guy's closer off towards 300 speed in a speed set and able to just crank this special as much as possible. That's how you get the most value out of this guy. So if you're putting a decently fast speed set on him, like, you know what I'm saying? Like that, it's tough to give this guy exactly the mods he wants because there are so many higher priorities than this narrow use character. But if you are going to get the most out of him, that's how you do it. Okay, I usually talk about how these characters are applied when I'm doing these mod guides, but again, I did speak on that in the main Dr. Aphra video. That is in the description here for this one, so check that out. And, thank you so much for tuning into these guides here. We're just about wrapped up with Aphra. I didn't mention when I did her video that Hondo is also a useful character in there, and so I'll be covering him probably very next. Dynamic character can be applied in a lot of places, but I didn't want to exclude that also from use with Aphra. He's not included in this video because he has quite a bit more going for him than just as a 5th plug-and-play character with Aphra. So look for that one soon. But yes, thank you so much for your requests that made this video happen. Look forward to your comments. Appreciate all the encouraging feedback. And until next time, It's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.